Quantum Islam, Towards a New Worldview. By Murray Hunter and Azly Rahman. Introduction. In concluding our essay on Tawhidic singularity as a new philosophy of Islam, we propose that Muslims need to interpret the core teaching of oneness from a kaleidoscopic perspective. We asked readers to reflect upon the applicability of chaos or complexity theory to view Islam as an organic and living religion, inviting its believers to look at the concept of oneness as the manifesting of manyness. In this essay, we go deeper into the discussion of the soul of the Quran itself and how Muslims could perceive and read it as a postmodern text with multiple level meanings based on her unique life experiences. We wish to propose the worldview of quantum Islam, as a new way looking at this cultural belief system. We invite readers to think of Islam as more than just unquestioning faith and rites and rituals, but as an evolving text to be made alive. The idea of a living Quran is a means of perceiving and feeling one's existence as a world of interconnectedness. This world of deep personal connectivity is a world of the physical, emotional and spiritual self as it exists in the realm of the universal self, as a world designed as a quantum being in itself. Multiple universes and the Quran. Islam is about what cannot at present be explained intrinsically through the science we know today. The Quran is a deeply layered book of meaning. However, the majority of Muslims have tended to take literal views. The Quran has also foreseen many scientific discoveries and defined the nature of our realities. Such a view of the cognitive and metaphysical nature of the text has been dominant at a time when Islamic philosophy was being conceived, especially in the debates between scholars trained in Greek philosophy with those trying to rid the influence of rationalism in epistemologizing the meaning of existence. The Quran and Hadiths have shaped the worldview of 20% of the world's population. But Islam today is viewed as a singular reality, embedded in Arabism and hellfire paradigms, coercing Muslims to follow literal views, within a carrot-and-stick enlightenment and fear syndrome. As a consequence, Islam has not been the means to a higher-level universal wisdom that the Quran can facilitate, if read with this understanding. Al-Rabb al-Alamin, the Lord of the worlds, indicates a multiverse with parallel realities. There are parallel universes mentioned within the Quran that we don't have access to. These worlds are widely talked about within the Quran, the world of the jinns, as in the verse, "And the jinn race, we had created before, from the fire of a scorching wind." Quran, 15:27. The 99 names of Allah also suggest multi-existential paradigms. Challenges of constructing this multi-universal view. The first challenge is to escape the unipolar world and live in, and transcend to the multipolar world the Quran describes. That is, atoms can be both a particle and wave and thus be in multiple places at the same time. True realities are multipolar dynamics, rather than unipolar statics. Thus, to understand the complexity of the environment, we must develop both our personal self-awareness and social awareness. So where reality is multi-layered and kaleidoscopic, layered and deeper meanings can be derived from the chaotic environment we exist within through contemplating the layered intricacies and meanings within the Quran. Muslims viewing the text of the Quran as a living and evolving one, can find a meaningful guide to life and the universe, which we propose is what quantum Islam means. What one sees with the naked eye, a phenomenon to be studied, is just a level of reality that we construct cognitively. However, as one reads deeper into the meaning of the Quran, one may find the signs and symbols manifesting themselves in newer ways, which we digest and make meaning of through our self-awareness or spirituality. The second challenge is that we must understand that we are not at the center of the world. We must override the assumption that modern humankind has adopted, in that humans can control nature and nature is here to serve us. What we think and the assumptions behind our very thoughts may not actually resemble reality, and may not be the truth. Once we shed this egocentric view of the world, we come to realize that we cannot control nature and we must nurture nature. In the Quran it is said, "Say, He is Allah, He is one, He is eternal, He begets not nor is He begotten, and there is none equal unto Him. Surah Ikhlas, 112. Muslims engaged in a cognitive and metaphysical reading of the Quran may propose that human existence is both physical and conceptual, and that as a Platonic view would contend, we are both forms and appearance, and that if the self is an invention, creation to manifest the truth, there is a larger truth of being and nothingness, in another world of the unseen. This is the idea of corresponding reality of existence. Islam proposes that this view of quantum state of beingness can only be understood if one understands the meaning of selflessness or the destruction of the ego, and to allow the self to be liberated from the confines of a physical and mechanistic world. The third challenge is to read the question from a culturally neutral perspective. This means stripping the notion that all that is Islam is Arabic and with fallacy, to believe that religious belief is not cultural. This is to begin to believe that to be a Muslim, one need not aspire to be or to become an Arab. If Islam is a universal truth, it is not Arab-centric, and many of the rites and rituals cannot be universal, if for example, Islam was to the truth on another planet like Mars. What would Islam be like without the cultural anchors that have grown around it and almost strangled the truth? If, as the last message of Prophet Muhammad would contend, that Islam promotes a universal message of peace, and be viewed as the final revelation, and that only 20% of the world's 1.5 billion Muslims are speakers of the Arabic language, what has been the consequence of Islam as religion that has been too much caught in the semiotics of Arabism? Simply put, why is being Muslim today synonymous of being or looking Arabic? The three challenges above, namely that we are living in a multipolar world, that our existence is not central to the universe, and that religion is a cultural construct to present ways for Muslims to view Islam differently. The Quran, in its very first few words of revelation, read, "In the name of thy Lord who created thee," is a clear enough proposition for believers in this religion to read oneself and to read the world one is living in. It is an invitation for readers to not only read the world but also to write a story of one's life, based on one's own worldview, and to unshackle oneself from being defined by others. The challenges above are existential in nature, given by the Quran to the readers. Verily, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alternation of night and day, there are indeed signs for men of understanding, men who remember Allah, standing, sitting, and lying down on their sides, and contemplate the creation of the heavens and the earth, with the thought, Our Lord, not for nothing have you created all this. Glory to you. Give us salvation from the suffering of the fire. Quran 3, 190-191. The Ummah as singularity in multiplicity. The Ummah is an interconnection of oneness, not segregated tribes who are at war with each other. We are left to reflect upon the multiplicity of worlds that were created and understand that we are only a tiny part of it. This opens up wisdom, develops humbleness, and increases empathy towards the being something greater than ourselves. The quintessential and foundational chapter of the Quran, Al-Fatiha, or the opening off for this idea of mercy, peace, gratitude, and wisdom in choosing between good and evil. It introduces the reader to the idea that the path of righteousness, or the Siratul Mustaqim, is the path of peace that will guide human beings in this journey through the bountiful and merciful world created by the Lord of the universe. This path is a challenging one, as we can see that even the world Islam can be used to strike terror in others as well as create untold magnitude of destruction. The emergence of the ISIS Islamic State of Syria and Iraq, or ISIL, the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, or the Daesh, Darul Islamiyah, and the globalization of terror is an example of how the word of Islam and the Tawhidic message of peace can be misrepresented and be a guide to the path of those cursed, as the last verse of the Al-Fatiha reads. This takes us into the Tawhidic singularity realm of Islam, with the idea of Gnosticism factored into the belief system of the Alam al-Ghaib, the concealed dimension of reality. We are told within the Tawhid to submit to Allah and be part of the greater universe. Yet the behavior espoused by Islam scholars today tends to deem that our humanity is at the center of the universe. It puts humankind above the natural laws of the universe, in a state of arrogance, detested in the Quran itself. Today we see many political Islamic ideologies that seek to dominate all. This is contrary to Allah's scheme of things within the Quran. The continual return to referencing Allah as the merciful and the compassionate reminds us of the need for humility, not hostility and cruelty to humankind. Choice is open to humankind within the teachings of the Quran. This implies man can choose the realities he wants to exist within. I control what I perceive. I control what I think. I control how I act. I am responsible for the consequences. 13:11. This must occur beyond the bounds of egocentric consciousness and the assumption that there is only one possible reality. The action upon literal translation of the Quran is a denial of the true realities that the Quran lays out in front of us. Literal scholarly understanding of the Quran has shackled our understanding to the cultural metaphors that have bounded Islam to its Arabness that we see today. This has blinded us to seeing the deeper dimensions of Islam and the messages of transformation towards Tawhidness. The Quran is a dynamic book, talking about change. It's been interpreted as static dogma and doctrines, losing the central message about our journey of transcendence to the state of Tawhidness. The paradoxes of metaphoric and material universes. The paradoxes of the Quran advise humanity not to be too self-excessive and egocentric. Our greed, and other negative emotions, narcissism and other neuroses, addictions, pleasures, accumulation of wealth, and how we treat others is a quantum introspection that we are taught within the Quran, in order to assist us seeing other realities, universes, that we have choice to enter and exist within. Only through this open awareness can we experience the realities of the world around us, learn to submit to the greater universe around us, which is called Allah. Our essence of purity through the state of spirituality is the only paradigm we can use to understand the deep meaning of the Tawhid and its greatness, far beyond any person, society, or time. Thus the Tawhid provides humanity with a meaning of life, that of being part of a greater existence. A worldview that accommodates not only the multiple worldviews of existing belief system but also respects the process of constructing emergent new ones. The introspection of the literal Allah is a neurosis that blinds us to Allah's true greatness and our true appreciation of this. This is the true reality. In Islam, worldviews such as that proposed through Sufism takes Muslims away from the ordered mechanistic worldview. The world can be seen for what it is, complex in almost mystical ways, as even the laws of nature itself can be seen beyond cause and effect, beyond karma, which is too simplistic to explain reality. This is the quantum view of Islam, which can also be found in the way Buddhism views the self, reality, and existence. Buddhist ideas such as the self as non-existence and constantly evolving as the being and becoming bodhisattva journeys towards nibbana or nirvana, and constantly being aware of the impermanence of the self and the ephemerality of physical beings, and to live a principle of non-attachment to this mechanistic and material world, and finally to view that life is a process of samsara or the evolution towards liberation, perpetual happiness, and next to enter the realm of being and nothingness. This view is where the similarity of quantum Islam and core metaphysical teachings of existing cultural philosophies lie. Perception and feeling become more important than any form of quantitative measurement in understanding reality. The Quran itself is not a quantitative work. It is a compendium of propositions inviting readers to think of multiple interpretations of the meaning of texts, subtexts, and cultural contexts. It is a postmodern text that has not proper arrangement or a sense of story of creationism. In other words, it is not a structured story about the metaphysics and physics of creation and man's place in the universe. The Quran, in short, is merely a set of annotated readings inviting the reader to deconstruct meanings. It is a book about representations of alternate realities in which even the speaker or narrator of this grand text utilizes shifting pronouns in telling stories and passing down decrees. Reality and Quantum Islam. The perception of reality is about awareness, as the Quran teaches. It is about how individuals transcend the universe through a journey towards a destination and seek the final reality. Mathematics breaks down in any view of reality. That is, mathematics cannot explain 10% of infinity. Science cannot explain reality, as if we look at an atom we are not sure whether it's a particle or a wave. There is a duality to everything, that is, atoms can be in more than one place at the same time. Half of what we look at is in decay, so the Schrödinger's cat is both alive and dead at the same time. There is a duality of consciousness that we must understand. It is both psychic and physical, full of emotion and emotionless, black and white, good and evil, hot and cold, attracting and repelling. Reality is thus an interconnectiveness of nature and a web of relationships between humanity and spirituality, that makes up a unified whole within us. The form of our realities is the product of our observation of this. A Tawhidic consciousness is therefore so important in our interpretation of reality. Seeing this is the order within the chaos that shrouds our minds by focusing too much on the poles of the existential paradoxes. Paradoxes can only be understood through balance. Then one can see the truths within people, relationships, and events. Many Islamic writers resorted to using poetry to enhance the understanding of nonlinear world. The Quran talks of a transition to a level where the duality of mind and body cannot be distinguished. We shift into a singularity where there is no time, no space, just a transcendence or universal oneness. We transcend the 4 dimensions that we understand into further dimensions which the Quran speaks of, but we have no direct prior experience. This is the state called surga. The direct experience of reality is a psychic and emotional breakthrough to what Islam calls al-filah. The only tool needed to see reality is a Tawhidic transcending awareness, which is the key to openness and seeing something greater than ourselves. This is why we rely on rituals such as zikr, where prayer is incorporated, which builds up higher levels of consciousness. Zikr should help us create an empty mind so all thoughts are cleared to enable us to see the greater universe free of our own egocentrism. This is where insight comes from as we experience eureka manifestations of both personal and universal nature. Einstein wrote of this epiphanic moment in his journey to construct the theory of relativity. Our intellect is developed through our experience, which gathers knowledge and interprets meaning for us. The heart of all knowledge for a human is experience. For example, we cannot know what it is like to scuba dive, without actually scuba diving. 100 hours in a classroom cannot give you the same knowledge as a few minutes under the water. Without experiencing the universe we are blind. This blindness can only be overcome through being open and empathetic to the world around us. Blindness to the universe is a human neurosis. Science, sense, and soul. A quantum view of reality puts an end to materialism. It is within this paradigm Quantum Islam that one need to look at reality in a different light, taking into consideration that life is not entirely founded upon materialism. The Tawhid espouses us to transcend materialism. The non-physical element of our life is our existence, not material things, only their images and symbolic meanings within our minds. This triggers our emotions which create al-fasat realities for humankind, bringing humans to a level of personal destruction through greed, etc. This also has repercussions in thought and future actions, and can be considered ill intentions, contrary to what the Quran espouses. This is our mystical jihad of finding our true uncorrupted existence. The worldly realities mediate and shrivel over our Tawhidic consciousness, which tells us what is right. Going against what is right is sin and our physic destruction. Tawhidic consciousness is the true universal wisdom, just as quarks within atoms possess energy which has its own consciousness described for example, by physicists such as Freeman Dyson. Like quarks, we have the capacity to make free decisions. The non-physical, all-embracing empathetic and compassionate mind is what we can develop through Tawhidic guidance. This takes us into the realm of Allah and Surga. Allah exists within our higher levels of consciousness, as we are told many times within the Quran. The narratives of the Quran are concerned with both individual and social, universal, consciousness, the yin and yang of our existence. This has great implications which haven't been discussed within the Islamic world. Most are restricted to reading from the literal universe of the Quran, and clinging to this unipolar universe. To see reality, we must discard the concepts of language and images. Structure gives bias and shackles our knowing. Higher intellect cannot be obtained through the processes thinking within mechanistic realities. This blinds us to the understanding of the essential nature of the universe. With a literal understanding of the Quran we are in a paradigm lock within a singular universe of nature. Without paradox, we cannot see meaning, as paradox is the only way we can interpret. Paradox is the language above all other languages, the only way we can create benchmarks within our mind, in order to interpret the universe around us. However, these paradoxes are ruled by personal emotions, of which we both project and introspect with the dualities that define our world. It is within these dualities that we define good and evil, right and wrong, virtuous or sinful. Islam and particularly the Tawhid is a field of potential. It is a reality beyond our materialistic reality, and our consciousness which is intertwined with our ego self. The Tawhid can only be entered into, discovered, or become an awareness through humility on the inside and compassion filtering to the outside, without the ego self bounding us back to our materialistic existence. This dimension is a field of human and universal purity, full of wisdom, al-filah. Islam is really about how we transcend the lower earthly dimensions of ourselves into the higher dimension of Tawhid purity. This is quantum Islam, the potential to be, the choice that has been given to all humanity within the Quran. Conclusion. Exploring idea of quantum Islam, as the name suggests, requires the mind of the Muslim to engage in the phenomenological and metaphysical experience of conceiving worldviews beyond the mechanistic view of the personal and physical self and move toward a higher plane of quantum physics and metaphysics. In other words, Muslims should raise the level of understanding Islam from mere doctrinal and cultural to philosophical and multi-universal and multidimensional. This requires a new understanding of what God is, beyond how this concept of a creator is understood. A Kantian shift in Islamic metaphysics and ontological evolution is needed, as how the idea of a Heisenberg principle of observing objectivity was conceived. Muslims need to explore the semiotics of believing itself and venture deeper into the meaning, and constructing the meaning of reading their book of readings, the Quran.